people say this, but often what people say is not what they're thinking. But we can now actually look at what they're thinking.
So, Steve, listen, you're a thought guy. Like you're a high thought guy. You're constantly challenging what you see, what you know, why you know it. And I mean, like, The Case for Creativity is a book written by accountants.
It turns out, yes.
Okay. And you brought that to my attention.
Weirdly enough.
Yeah. And, right. Well, and you brought that to my attention. And we studied, at the Wizard Academy, where we've gone countless, times. So we've gone and we've learned some stuff, and everybody should go there. We learned about the brain during the very first course you should take, which is Magical Worlds of Communication. And where we process stuff. Like, the brain fundamentally is so important on and understanding it for what we do in marketing. So if we were to talk about neuroscience today, as opposed to advertising, what would we lean into?
What would we lean into?
Yeah. What's the subject for today?
Well, the subject today is, look, here's one of the things that's really cool that we can do today that we've not been able to do before, is ask people questions and see in live in an MRI how the brain is processing.
There you go.
Because in the clip, you're going to see even the professor who runs this experiment says, people say this, but often what people say is not what they're thinking. But we can now actually look at what they're thinking.
Exactly.
And that's something that didn't exist 30 years ago.
Right.
Like when I was in university and I wrote, one of the papers I wrote was hemispherical lateralization and its impact on advertising. And it was hilarious. I came across it recently and I was rereading it and I was like, oh my God, our thoughts, our understanding of the brain sure as hell has changed.
Okay, no. So, that's brilliant. And quite literally, all we had was how we interpreted how we were processing versus what is actually happening while we are processing.
Correct.
So I think that's the difference. Okay, so it's a neuroscientist. His name is Michael Platt. Let's cue that up. Watch this.
Michael Platt is a professor of neuroscience, marketing, and psychology whose research demonstrates how our perception of brands influences our decisions.
There's an idea in marketing, which is that we relate to brands in the same way we relate to people. It's like, I love this brand, or I hate this brand. Of course, what people say, right, can often be different from what's really going on in their heads. So we thought, well, why don't we just ask the brain directly?
Michael and his team observed the brains of iPhone users and Samsung Galaxy users with an MRI machine, while they heard good, bad, and neutral news about Apple and Samsung.
Apple customers showed a brain empathy response toward Apple that was exactly what you'd see in the way you would respond to somebody in your own family.
Strangely, Samsung users didn't have any positive or negative responses when good or bad news was released about their brand. The only evidence that Samsung users showed was reverse empathy for Apple news, meaning if the Apple headline was negative, their brain reflected a positive response.
It really shows us that Apple has completely defined the market here. Samsung customers, it seems, from their brain data, are only buying Samsung because they hate Apple.
All right. So, wow.
Okay. So here's the cool thing on this.
Yes.
So, we often talk about marketing strategy.
Yes.
Okay. Strategically, let's pretend we're Motorola.
Okay,
right?
wait a second. This is about, Apple and Samsung.
Right. But let's pretend we're Motorola.
Okay, I got you.
Strategically use this information now that you know that basically Apple users love their phone and defend their phone and defend it to the end.
Love it like family.
Love it like family. So if they love it like family, am I going to be able to get people to switch from Apple to Motorola? Especially where even if there's negative news, the Apple user will defend it.
No, absolutely 1,000% not.
There's a moat around them, unassailable.
That force field. It's
right.
nuts.
Yeah. We often talk about there's always room for two big players in a marketplace. Here's the reason why. Samsung by default, has ended up becoming the anti-Apple device. Because basically their users are happy when there's a little bit of bad Apple news because it's almost like reinforcement that I made the right decision.
That's right.
But they don't have any positives about Samsung. They're essentially using Samsung because they stand against Apple.
That's right.
Apple users use Apple because they stand for Apple. Samsung users use Samsung because they stand against Apple.
Which actually means that Apple owns space in both their brains.
Correct.
Okay.
But now you're Motorola. So if I was doing consulting for Motorola, here's what I'd say.
You really are right now consulting for Motorola.
I guess we are. This is free for Motorola. So if I was doing consulting for Motorola, here's what I would do. I'd look at it and go, I cannot take money. I cannot take share. Can't take business from Apple. Unassailable. Right. I can take business from Samsung.
Yes.
They're vulnerable.
Yes.
And how I would do it is I would take the default position away from Samsung.
Yeah.
I would stand for being anti-Apple. Now, here's the weird thing is, we've seen this game done before.
Yes, we have.
I take you back to 2006, when Apple was a little tiny company and Microsoft was the big company. They stood against Microsoft and they created the whole 3-year campaign of, I am a PC, I'm a Mac.
Wait a second. That was a sticky sales story.
That was a sticky sales story.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It worked amazingly
Brilliantly
well. It was a
Brilliantly
brilliant campaign. On all Apple was saying is, I stand against these things. I stand against all the things that Microsoft stands for.
Yes.
I stand against. That door for Motorola is wide open. And I tell you, if Motorola took that stand and did it in a creative and fun manner, similar to that, look, they can't do the I am Mac, I am PC.
Well, no.
But all I'm saying is it's been done, so we know it works.
Yes.
And it was done by a little tiny company that went on to become huge. I'm telling you, Motorola did that. They would become number 2 in the space.
Are you listening, Motorola? And if you're not listening, if you know somebody at Motorola, you have kind of an in, like, just show them what we're talking about.
Right.
This really truly, I look at this because we did talk about, like, I'll put a link to the previous episode for Apple versus PC. The phenomenal response that people got, the loving response that people got, the Apple lovers, the people that now switched over to Apple from PC because of all the reasons why they stood against what was happening with Windows, all the Windows changes and blah, blah, blah. That was an anti-strategy.
It was.
See that. I stand against. Apple doesn't do that for iPhone. We do this awesome thing. And even though you could argue right now that Apple's in the worst technological advancement time of their career. Like, they're making iterations that everybody's saying, you're just catching up to what they did. Yeah, all you're doing is catching up now. They're playing out, and people will still defend. Apple users are still going, yeah, but it's Apple.
Yeah, I got my Apple phone here.
Right? So listen, so this is crazy because there is an opportunity to join the ranks of Google, Samsung, and One, all the guys that are using Android as their operating system versus Apple.
Right. But to become
and stand above.
But to become the one who stands against it.
Exactly.
And becomes that thing and doing it. And look, and doing it in a manner that you don't really realize is becoming the it's not like we're anti-Apple, but just really, really taking that place. And this is an example. The reason why I really like this is how we talk strategy all the time. And this is an example of that. Here's this idea. Here's the shape of the problem. Apple users are this way. Samsung users are this way. If I'm now the third person, how do I take advantage of that? What's the shape of that problem? Have I seen that shape of that problem before? Has somebody solved it before? Oh, they have. I can now take that idea and use it because I know it's worked. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Somebody other than Samsung can eat Samsung's breakfast. Samsung is vulnerable here.
You called me that day. Like, when you got this, you had that so fast. I saw this morning. I thought about it for about an hour, and then you called me and said, "Man," I go, "Oh, I got a sticky sales story. We got to talk about this." It was so easy for you to put all those together. But again, you're a business topology guy. I mean, like, if you guys listen to the Empire Builders podcast, you'll see he's been breaking down businesses for 3 years now, and how they became big and what they've done to get there. So like, yeah, like
5 years.
Is it, I guess 5 years?
Well, I guess it's 4 years. Sorry.
Okay, 4 years. I was going to say 5 years seems long.
We're coming into our 5th year.
That's right. And so, like, the guys, like this is the guy that can do that, can see it from every angle, look at the shape, and then see, he now has figured out how everybody else has done it so that we can then take that shape and go, oh, wait a second, this would fit over here. We just got to plunk this in and take this out, and boom, here, now you can do the exact same thing. It was already solved. Russian scientists call that TRIZ. We call it, the 40 answers to Da Vinci. We're looking at solving the problem from the only angles any angle that exists. So we don't have to be that creative, which I love.
So here's how you can use it in an everyday mainstream business, because that's who our customers are.
Yes.
You're in a marketplace where there's two strong competitors, one deeply loved, the other one not really loved, but it's maybe respected, but it's not loved. This is your opportunity. If you can see it and you can sit there and go, this kind of feels like Apple, Samsung, you know what you do? You become the one to stand against the one that's loved.
That's right.
Watch the IM Mac PC for the flavor of that. Look, we modeled that. Like, if anybody has ever listened to the Empire Builders podcast and heard any of the Sir Richard Poshingham ads, Sir Richard Poshingham and Mark Tapper are Mac PC.
That's exactly what it is.
It is modeled exactly off of that. Exactly off of that. And you would not know that if I didn't say that to you. It's not obvious. But now that I say it, you're like, oh, I can see it now.
Yes. Yes. Right? No, absolutely.
But that's your opportunity if the shape of your market is that shape. This is how you can apply that idea.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Man, this one was great. I love getting into the brain. Listen, there was no way to really truly fight this fight before. Only now can we actually see what's happening and what those real thought processes are, and we can actually define what those two stances are for these two brands. Don't get me wrong, there's lots of science that can back up some other things, but only now can we start doing this. So let's take this new advancement in information, use it to our advantage, wield it like a sword. Man, this was really good. Thank you so much. Now I've got to go back to some clients. I got to figure out some ways for me to use this.
Motorola, give me a call.
Oh, and we'll figure out a way to get into their world. Thank you guys for listen. We're over. By the way, congratulations to us. We're celebrating a year and one video with this one.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, I think this is video 53. And so thank you for sticking around and watching, and we've got lots more to come. We've got tons of ideas we're going to bring to the table. Steve, you've been awesome, and I can't wait to do 52 more.
All right. It's awesome. This has been fun.
Thanks, guys.